Ethan Cole opened his eyes and felt the cold. Not the cold of space or of a metal floor, but a strange, soft cold that seemed to hum under his skin. He tried to move, but his body felt heavy, like every limb had forgotten how to obey him. His mind was foggy, and the last thing he remembered was the explosion, the fire ripping through the hull of his ship, the alarms screaming, and the thought that this was the end. He thought he had died. But he hadn't. Beside him, a soft sob broke the silence. It was high-pitched, trembling, almost like the cry of a child. But it was not a child. Ethan's eyes focused slowly, and he saw her, a being unlike any he had ever imagined. She sat on the floor, her knees drawn up to her chest, her silver skin glinting under the strange soft blue light of the room. Her eyes were enormous, glowing faintly like two small moons, and tears rolled down her face. Her hair shimmered like strands of liquid silver, flowing as if moved by an unseen wind. She looked at him, and her sobs grew softer. When she finally spoke, her voice was broken and quiet, almost a whisper. You survived." Ethan's mouth opened, but no words came. He tried to sit up, and this time his body obeyed, though every movement felt strange and new. He looked at her more closely and realized she was trembling. Fear, shock, relief. He couldn't tell which emotions were strongest. I thought you were gone," she said, her voice cracking. "I saw it happen. I saw you die." Ethan blinked. He had been trained for combat, for war, for survival, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. He had expected death, yet here he was, and beside him sat a princess of an alien race, crying over him. "My name is Ethan Cole," he said, his voice rough and hoarse. Where am I?" The princess's eyes widened. She looked at him like he had said something impossible. You speak our language." Her voice shook. I feared humans could not survive here. They never have." Ethan frowned. "Never what?" "Survive what?" She shook her head, wiping her tears. "Survive this. Healing. It was not meant for you. No human has ever lived through it. You should be dead." Ethan's confusion deepened. "Healing?" he asked, trying to piece together the words. "What happened to me?" The princess hesitated, then took a deep breath. "You saved me," she said, her voice firm now, though it still carried tremors. "When pirates attacked our convoy, you did not run. You protected me. I thought I saw your end, but somehow, you live." Ethan's head spun as memories came back in flashes. The explosion, the bright fire, the sound of metal tearing apart, and yet he was here, lying on a floor that felt soft beneath him, under a dome of light that made the room seem endless. "Who are you?" he asked, finally finding his voice. "I am Lyra of House Aurelian," she said, bowing her head slightly. "Princess of the Aurelian Empire." Ethan sat up fully, swinging his legs over the side of the platform he had been lying on. "Princess!" His mind raced. "Aliens!" Real aliens. And he was here, alive, with one of their royals. "Why am I alive?" he asked, voice barely above a whisper. Lyra looked down at the floor, then back at him, tears returning to her eyes. "Because of forbidden magic or technology. Something neither our people nor yours were supposed to touch. You were revived with the royal healing device. No human should have survived it." Ethan swallowed hard, trying to understand. He had heard of alien healing technology in classified briefings back on Earth, but it had always been theoretical, impossible to survive, and yet here he was. His body ached, but he felt stronger than before. "Stronger?" he asked, flexing his fingers. Every movement felt precise, more responsive. His legs, when he stood, carried him with a speed and balance he had never known. Lyra nodded, though her gaze was still filled with fear. "Your body, it adapts. You heal differently. No other species has survived this." Ethan's mind raced. He had always been human, ordinary, fragile, compared to soldiers of other worlds. Yet here, in the presence of this alien princess, he realized something extraordinary. He was different. The room doors hissed open, and two tall beings entered, their skin shimmering a faint green, their eyes large and reflective. They wore long robes decorated with symbols that seemed to float and change as they moved. They looked at Ethan with curiosity, fear, and awe all at once. "Your Highness," one of them said to Lyra, "he lives. This is unprecedented." Lyra stepped forward. "He is human. He survived." The second being interrupted, bowing slightly. "No human has survived royal revival. The tests failed every time. The council will need to see this. They must decide his fate." Ethan's heart pounded. "Decide my fate?" he asked. I'm alive." "What do you mean?" Lyra's eyes softened. "They may not believe you are fit to live among us. They may fear what you are capable of." Ethan's chest tightened. Fear he had never felt before rose inside him. Not fear of death, but fear of being treated as a weapon, an experiment, a curiosity. And yet, through that fear, he felt something else. Something humans knew well. Defiance. "I am alive," he said firmly, standing taller. "I do not belong on the floor like a prisoner. I saved someone. I survived. That should matter." Lyra smiled faintly, wiping away her tears. "It matters," she whispered, "more than you know. You may not understand now, but your survival, it could change everything." The green-skinned aliens motioned for him to follow. Ethan obeyed, walking carefully, feeling the new strength in his legs. The halls outside the room were long and curved, glowing with a light that shifted between blue and white. The architecture was alien, elegant, impossible, yet somehow comforting. As they walked, Lyra kept close to him. "The Empire is in danger," she said softly. "We have enemies, ancient and relentless. We were losing the war and your survival. It may be the first hope we have seen in decades." Ethan frowned. "A human? My survival can help your empire?" Lyra nodded. "Yes. Humans are different. You endure, adapt, resist. Even the strongest of my people have never matched it. You may be the key to our survival." They arrived at a large chamber filled with beings from across the galaxy. Some were tall, armored, and cold. Others small and delicate, their eyes like crystals. All turned to look at him as he entered. Whispers filled the air, a language he did not understand, but the meaning was clear. This was unusual. This was something never seen before. One of the beings, taller than the rest, stepped forward. He had silver markings along his green skin, and his eyes were like deep pools of knowledge and authority. "Ethan Cole," he said, his voice carrying across the hall. "You have survived where no other human has. Your existence is remarkable, but your presence raises questions. Questions that require answers." Ethan swallowed hard. He had faced battles, storms, explosions, and enemy fire, but nothing had prepared him for this. He was a stranger on an alien world, yet somehow he felt alive in a way he had never felt before. The fear remained, but so did a spark that told him he could face whatever came next. Lyra stepped forward beside him. "He saved me," she said clearly, her voice carrying across the chamber. "And he survived the royal revival. If you doubt him, I do not. His survival is a miracle." The council members murmured among themselves. Ethan noticed some of them leaned closer, eyes wide with curiosity and wonder. Others looked skeptical, almost angry that a human could survive where none had before. Ethan met their eyes without fear. He did not know what the future held, but he knew this: he was not going to be broken, used, or treated as weak. He was a human. He had survived death, and perhaps, for the first time in his life, he felt that being human could mean something extraordinary. The whispers grew louder. Some spoke of fear, some of hope. Ethan could not understand the words, but the tone was clear. His life had just become the center of an empire's fate. Lyra reached out, taking his hand. Her touch was warm, grounding him in a world that was completely alien. "We will face what comes next together," she said softly. "If you live, perhaps humanity has a place here. Perhaps your people are not as weak as they think." Ethan nodded. He had survived. He had adapted. And now he would see just how far being human could take him. Outside, the stars of the alien galaxy shone bright, but for the first time, Ethan felt that somewhere in that vast expanse, humanity might shine too. Ethan felt the weight of the council's eyes on him as he followed Lyra through the twisting halls of the palace. Every step made his muscles ache, but the ache felt different now. It was the ache of a body that had been rebuilt, strengthened, and tested beyond what he thought possible. The alien corridors were smooth, glowing faintly with a soft blue light that shifted as they walked. The air was warm but clean, carrying a faint metallic scent that reminded him he was not on Earth. Lyra kept close to him, her small hand brushing his arm every now and then. "They are cautious," she said softly. "Most of them do not understand humans. They fear what they cannot control." Ethan nodded. "I've been underestimated before. I've survived things others thought impossible. I think I can handle this, too." Lyra gave a small smile, though worry lingered in her eyes. "Survival is one thing, Ethan, but here, strength alone does not mean safety. Our empire is at war. They see humans as primitive, fragile, easy to destroy. You must show them otherwise." Before Ethan could answer, the hall opened into a vast chamber filled with alien scientists and healers. Their eyes were wide as they examined him, scanning him with devices that hummed softly. Some whispered to each other in a language he did not understand, pointing at his body, his hands, and the faint scars that ran across his arms. One of them stepped forward. She was taller than Lyra, her skin a faint shade of green, her eyes sharp and intelligent. "This human, he has survived the royal revival. This should be impossible. Every test, every attempt, failed before, yet he lives, and stronger than ever." Ethan flexed his fingers, feeling the new power in them. He could sense every movement, every tension in his body. "Impossible," he repeated. "I'm alive, aren't I?" The alien looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. "Alive? Yes, but how? Your species is adaptable in ways we do not understand. You absorbed the healing energy instead of rejecting it. No other human has ever done this." "Ooh." Lyra watched him carefully. "Ethan," she said softly, "they are beginning to see what I saw the moment you woke. You are not like other humans. You are something new, something important." Ethan tried to speak, but words failed him. He had been trained for war, for survival under impossible odds, but nothing had prepared him for being a living miracle in front of an entire empire. "Show us your strength," another alien spoke, stepping forward with a small device in his hand. "We must know if you can endure battle. You may be needed in the war." Ethan's brow furrowed. "Battle?" he asked. "I don't even know what kind of war you're fighting." Lyra took a deep breath. "Our empire has been losing for years. An ancient enemy called the Valens. They are relentless, merciless. They do not see humans as dangerous, but their fleets are vast, and their warriors are strong. If you survive, if you fight, perhaps we can finally turn the tide." Ethan's heart pounded. He had fought against impossible odds before. But this was different. He was not fighting for Earth, not yet. He was fighting for a world that had never seen humans before, for a princess who had trusted her life to him. And for some reason he could not explain, he felt ready. The tests began. The aliens measured his reflexes, his strength, his endurance. They threw obstacles at him, tested his ability to heal, and observed every reaction. Every time he moved, he surprised them. He dodged faster than any alien soldier, lifted weights no human should be able to lift, and reacted to threats instinctively, almost instinctively predicting what the next attack would be. Lyra watched him closely. "They are beginning to see it," she whispered. "Your survival is not just luck. You are human, but stronger than they imagined."
"You are extraordinary." Hours passed, and Ethan barely noticed.
His body felt alive in a way he had never known. Every movement, every thought, every reflex was sharper, faster. He could feel the energy in his veins, a rhythm that matched the hum of the palace itself. Then came the simulation. Ethan was placed in a holographic battlefield, surrounded by projections of Valen's soldiers. The aliens watched as he moved through the simulated chaos, taking cover, striking, evading, and protecting the holographic Lyra. He did not hesitate. Every decision was instinct, every movement precise, every strike calculated. By the end of the simulation, the room was silent. The aliens stared, their faces filled with a mix of awe and fear. Lyra's eyes glistened with tears. "You," she whispered, "you are more than I imagined."
Ethan wiped sweat from his forehead.
"I'm just human," he said, though even he could hear the doubt in his voice. He had always thought humans were fragile, weak, compared to the species he had read about in the alien archives. But now he felt powerful, not just in body, but in spirit. The next day, the palace alarm rang. Red lights flashed through the halls and the floor vibrated with distant impact. Lyra grabbed Ethan's arm. "They are here," she said, her voice urgent. "The Valons have detected you. They know a human survived the revival. They are coming for you." Ethan felt a surge of adrenaline. "Coming for me?" he asked. "Why? I'm just one man." Lyra shook her head. "They do not understand humans. They will see you as a threat. They will destroy anyone who protects you. We must prepare for battle." Ethan looked out the palace windows at the stars. The alien fleet was massive, ships larger than anything he had ever seen, bristling with weapons and shields. He felt fear, yes, but it was mixed with something else. Determination. He had survived death once. He would not fail now. The council gathered quickly. Aliens of all shapes and sizes debated loudly, their words sharp and urgent. Some demanded Ethan be hidden, kept safe. Others argued he could be a weapon, a key to winning the war. Ethan listened quietly, understanding little of their language, but sensing everything from their tone, their gestures, their urgency. Lyra stepped forward, her voice clear. "We cannot hide him. He is more than a human. He is the first of his kind to survive. His strength is a gift. We must trust him." The council murmured, some nodding, some frowning. A tall figure with silver markings stepped forward, pointing at Ethan. "And if he fails?" he asked. "If he dies in battle?" He felt every eye on him, waiting for him to speak. He straightened, his shoulders back, his chest full.
"I won't fail," he said firmly. "I survived death once."
"I can survive this too. I will fight. I will protect her. And I will fight for your people if it matters. But I will not hide. I will not be afraid." A silence followed. The council looked at him, as if seeing him for the first time. Some shook their heads in disbelief. Others, slowly, nodded. They had never seen humans act like this. Fearless, determined, willing to fight not for power, but for others. Lyra squeezed his hand. "You may not understand yet, Ethan, but your courage, your humanity, it gives us hope." The alarms blared again, louder this time. Ships were descending, and the palace shook as distant blasts hit outer defenses. Ethan felt the floor beneath him tremble, the hum of alien energy all around. The simulation, the tests, they had prepared him. But this was real. And unlike the holographic soldiers, these enemies would not stop. He glanced at Lyra. Her face was pale, but her eyes were steady. "Lead me," she said softly. "I trust you." Ethan nodded. For the first time, he felt a connection beyond words. He had survived death. He had earned trust. And now he would fight, not just for himself, not just for Lyra, but for a species that had never believed humans could matter. They ran through the corridors, gathering allies and soldiers, preparing for the defense. Ethan's mind worked fast, instinct guiding him, ideas forming with each step. The aliens were skilled, but rigid. They followed protocol. Humans did not. Humans adapted, improvised, and thrived in chaos. He would show them what that meant. The first shots hit the outer walls, shaking the palace violently. Ethan gritted his teeth. The Valens had come, and they were stronger than anyone had imagined. Yet, in his heart, he knew something. Humanity had survived far worse, and in this moment, far from Earth, Ethan would prove it again. Lyra stayed close, her hand gripping his arm. "I believe in you," she whispered. Ethan looked at her, feeling a surge of determination. "Then let's make them believe too," he said. And with that, the human soldier who had cheated death prepared to show an alien empire what it truly meant to survive. The palace shook again as the Valen ships bombarded the outer walls. The sound of alarms and distant explosions filled every corridor. Ethan's heart pounded, but he did not panic. He had survived death once. He could survive this. Lyra ran beside him, her silver hair flowing behind her as they moved through the twisting halls. Soldiers of the Aurelian Empire hurried past them, carrying weapons and supplies, their faces tense with fear. Ethan's eyes scanned everything. He noticed weak points in the walls, gaps in the defenses, and patterns in the way the enemy ships attacked. "They're focused on the walls, but their flanks are weak," he said, pointing to the holographic map the aliens had provided. "If we move fast, we can get behind their ships and hit their control nodes." You think like a commander?" "I survived explosions and battles before. I can read the fight, predict it, and respond." "You have skilled soldiers. Let me help them fight smarter, not just harder." The aliens hesitated, unsure if they should trust a human with their war plans. But Lyra stepped forward, her voice ringing out clearly. "He saved me. He survived where no one should have. If he says we can do this, we will follow him." The soldiers looked at Ethan with uncertainty, but desperation outweighed doubt. They fell in line behind him as he directed them toward the outer walls. He instructed them to move in small groups, to use cover, to watch for enemy ambushes. Humans could think creatively in chaos, and he knew how to make the aliens see beyond their rigid battle plans. The first wave of Valan troops landed near the palace gates. Ethan moved forward, leading a small group of alien soldiers, their weapons raised and ready. He felt the strange hum of energy in the palace beneath his feet, but it did not distract him. His mind was focused. Survival, strategy, and protecting Lyra were all that mattered. The enemy soldiers were larger than any human he had faced, with armor that shimmered and claws that could tear through metal. But they moved predictably, relying on brute force. Ethan studied their patterns and ordered his team to circle around, striking from angles they did not expect. The aliens followed his commands, their movements becoming more fluid and adaptive. Ethan felt a surge of pride. They were learning to fight differently, thinking differently. They were learning what humans had always known. Survival was not just strength, it was adaptation, creativity, and courage. One Velan soldier lunged at Ethan, claws extended. He sidestepped, grabbed a fallen weapon, and struck back with precision. The soldier fell, stunned, and Ethan quickly moved to cover his team. Every action was fast, instinctive, and deadly. The alien soldiers were amazed. This human was more than they had ever imagined. Meanwhile, Lyra directed the palace's defense systems. She had control over energy barriers and defensive cannons, and she coordinated with Ethan to protect key points. The Valens were strong, but they had not expected a coordinated human mind in the fight. Ethan predicted their moves, countered them, and the tide began to turn. The first phase of battle ended with the Valans retreating slightly, their ships damaged by coordinated strikes. Ethan caught his breath, surveying the battlefield. His body ached, but he felt alive, sharper, stronger, and more aware than ever before. He realized that humans could thrive even in alien worlds, if they adapted quickly enough. Lyra ran up to him, her face streaked with sweat and tears. "You saved hundreds," she said, her voice shaking. "If not for you, we would have lost the outer walls." Ethan shook his head. "We did it together. Your people fought bravely. I just helped them see a new way to fight. That's all." But Lyra smiled, a mixture of relief and admiration. "No," she said. "You are more than a soldier. You are extraordinary. Our people will remember this day. You have shown them the strength of humanity." The Valans were not finished. They regrouped and launched a second, larger wave, this time aiming directly at the heart of the city. Ethan and Lyra watched from the palace tower as massive ships descended, their energy weapons lighting up the sky. Civilians fled, and the sound of alarms mixed with screams and the roar of engines filled the air. Ethan's mind raced. "We need to draw them into a trap," he said. "If we can make them focus on one area, we can hit their weak points and disable their command ships. But we have to act fast. They're too strong to fight directly." Lyra nodded. "Then lead us," she said. "I trust you." Ethan quickly organized the defenders. He split the soldiers into small units, each with a clear task. Some would lure the enemy forward, some would sabotage the ship's engines, and a small strike team, including himself, would target the command nodes directly. The plan was risky. If any unit failed, the palace could fall. But Ethan had learned something humans always knew. Risk was necessary when the odds were against you. The first unit moved out, drawing enemy fire with calculated maneuvers. Ethan's team followed, moving silently through side corridors and rooftops. They struck quickly, taking down Valan gunners, sabotaging energy nodes, and creating chaos within the enemy ranks. The Valans were strong, but their reliance on brute force made them predictable. Ethan led the strike team to the main command ship. He could see the Valan commander inside, barking orders. He signaled to the team and moved forward, using shadows and cover to get closer. The aliens had never fought like this before. They were learning. They were adapting, and Ethan felt a surge of pride. Inside the command ship, Ethan confronted the Valan commander. The creature was massive, its claws razor-sharp, its eyes glowing red. But Ethan did not hesitate. He dodged the first strike, grabbed a weapon, and struck back with precision. Each movement was calculated, instinctive. He was human, but he was more. The fight was intense. Ethan's team provided support from outside, sabotaging controls and distracting other soldiers. He moved faster than the Valen could predict, striking at weak points, dodging attacks, and using the environment to his advantage. The commander roared in frustration, realizing too late that brute strength alone could not win against cunning and adaptability. Finally, Ethan struck a decisive blow. The commander fell and the ship's systems began to fail. Outside, the Valen forces started to retreat, their strategy shattered. Ethan watched from a window as the alien ships pulled back, damaged and disorganized. Lyra ran up to him as the battle ended, her face radiant with relief and awe. "You did it," she said. "You saved us all. You are truly remarkable." Ethan shook his head, exhausted but satisfied. "We did it together. Your soldiers, your people, they fought bravely."
I just helped them see a different way.
Lyra took his hand, holding it tightly. "No," she said. "You showed them the strength of humans. They will never forget it. And I will never forget it." The council gathered once more, looking at Ethan with new respect. No longer was he just a human. They saw him as a symbol, a force of hope. Lyra stood beside him, proud and determined. The Empire had survived because a human had refused to die, refused to surrender, and refused to be weak. Ethan looked out at the stars once more. He had survived death, adapted to alien technology, and now led an Empire's defense. He realized something profound. Humanity was not weak. Humanity adapted, endured, and fought for others. And in this alien world far from Earth, he had proven it. As the sun of the alien world began to rise, casting soft light across the damaged city, Ethan and Lyra stood together, ready for whatever challenges would come next. The battle was won, but the war was far from over. And still, for the first time in his life, Ethan felt truly alive, not just surviving, but thriving, human, and extraordinary. He had survived death once. Now he would help an empire survive, and in the process, show the galaxy what it truly meant to be human. The sky above the capital world burned with color. Valen ships were retreating, their hulls smoking and crippled from the battle that Ethan had helped turn. The citizens of the Empire emerged from shelters, their faces a mixture of awe, relief, and disbelief. They'd been saved not just by their armies, but by one human, a species they had never taken seriously until now. Ethan stood on a high balcony, the cool wind brushing against his face. He had fought, planned, and survived impossible odds. Every muscle ached, but he felt alive in a way he had never known. Beside him, Lyra stood, her silver hair catching the sunlight. She looked out at the city, then back at him, her eyes bright with emotion. "You've changed everything," she said softly. "Our people, they will never see humans the same way again." Ethan shook his head. "I didn't do this alone. Your soldiers fought bravely. Your people adapted.
I just helped them see another way to fight."
Lyra smiled, but there was pride in her eyes that Ethan could not ignore. "You did more than help. You showed them humanity's strength. You showed them courage, adaptability, and the will to survive against impossible odds. That is something no one else could have done." The council gathered in the palace's grand hall, and this time, their faces were not filled with doubt. They looked at Ethan with respect, awe, and something he had never expected: gratitude. The council had debated his survival before, questioned if humans could matter in the galaxy. Now they knew the truth. Humans were not weak. Humans endured, adapted, and fought for others. One of the council leaders, the same who had doubted him before, stepped forward.
"Ethan Cole,"
he said. his voice steady. "Your actions have saved our empire. You have proven what we never believed possible.
Humanity is remarkable.
Your species may now be considered allies of the Aurelian Empire." Allies? Humans? He had never imagined that his survival could lead to this. He glanced at Lyra, who nodded encouragingly. "You've done more than survive," she said. "You have rewritten history." Outside, the people cheered. The battle had ended, but the impact of Ethan's actions would last forever. Soldiers and citizens alike spoke of the human who had led the defense, who had adapted, and who had refused to give up. Stories spread quickly, and soon the name Ethan Cole was known across the Empire. But there was no time to rest. Though the Valons had been driven back, they were not gone. They would return, stronger and more determined to crush the Empire. Ethan knew this. He had learned through human history that enemies often came back, but humans survived by adapting, by learning, and by refusing to break. Lyra led him to the command center, where alien engineers and strategists were already analyzing the damaged ships and planning defenses for the next attack. Ethan studied their plans, pointing out weaknesses, suggesting strategies, and showing how humans could use creativity and improvisation to gain advantage. They had relied on rigid protocols and strength before, but Ethan's ideas introduced flexibility, innovation, and adaptability. They realized that humans could think differently, move differently, and inspire courage in others. Hours turned into days as Ethan worked with the Aurelian forces. He trained soldiers, improved strategies, and strengthened defenses. He learned more about the Empire, its technology, and its culture, and in return, he taught the aliens about humanity, its resilience, its unpredictability, and its determination to survive against all odds. One evening, as the twin moons rose in the alien sky, Lyra approached Ethan with a small smile. "The people already speak of you as a hero," she said. "But more than that, they speak of humanity as a force to be respected. You have done this, Ethan."
You have changed everything. Ethan looked out at the city below, the streets still damaged but alive with activity.
Children played among the ruins, soldiers repaired walls, and merchants began to reopen their shops. The Empire was alive again, stronger, and ready for whatever came next. "I didn't do it alone," Ethan said quietly. "Humans survive because we adapt, but we also survive because we fight for others. I just brought that idea here. Your people already had the courage." Lyra took his hand, holding it gently. "Now," she said, "you showed them what it means to survive when the odds are impossible. You showed them humanity's heart. And for that, you will always be remembered." The council called a special ceremony to honor Ethan and formally recognize humans as allies of the Aurelian Empire. Representatives from all corners of the Empire gathered, and the palace halls were filled with beings of every shape, size, and color. The atmosphere was electric with excitement and respect. Ethan stood before the assembly, his hand steady despite the thousands of eyes upon him. He had never sought glory, but now he understood the responsibility of being recognized. Humans would not be treated as weak again. They would be known as survivors, as fighters, as allies worthy of respect across the galaxy. Lyra stepped forward, holding a ceremonial crown of silver and crystal. "Ethan Cole," she said, her voice clear and strong. "You have not only survived where no human ever has, but you have inspired hope in our empire. In recognition of your courage, strength, and leadership, I hereby declare you the first human Star Knight, protector of the Aurelian Empire, and symbol of a new alliance between our worlds." The assembly erupted in applause, and Ethan felt a wave of emotion wash over him. He had survived death, led an alien army, and now humanity's name would be known across the stars. The Valons had been defeated for now, but the war was not over. Yet Ethan felt ready. He had learned that humans did not give up, did not break, and did not fail when others relied on them. And with the Aurelian Empire by their side, humanity's future in the galaxy had just begun. Days passed, and the Empire rebuilt. Ethan continued to train and fight alongside the Aurelian forces, teaching them human tactics and learning from them in return. The bond between humans and aliens grew stronger, and across the Empire, stories of the human who had survived death and led them to victory became legend. Lyra remained by Ethan's side, both as a friend and as a trusted leader. Together, they worked to ensure the Empire was ready for the next challenge, knowing that enemies would come, but also knowing that together, humans and Aurelians could face anything. One night, Ethan stood on the balcony once more, looking out at the galaxy. He thought of Earth, of the people who had never known he survived, and he realized that humanity had more to offer than anyone had imagined. He was only one human, but even one human could change the course of history. Lyra joined him, her hand finding his. "Do you think they will come again?" she asked.
"They will," Ethan said calmly. "But we will be ready."
"We always are. Humans survive. We endure. And now, we have allies who understand that too." She smiled, leaning against him. "I'm glad it's you here with us," she said. Ethan smiled back, looking at the stars that stretched endlessly above. "Me too," he said. "But this is bigger than me. This is about humanity." And humanity never gives up. The twin moons of the alien world shone bright. Reflecting off the repaired towers and the sparkling streets below, the people of the Empire slept peacefully that night, safe for the first time in years. Ethan knew the war was far from over, but he also knew that humans would never be underestimated again. Across the galaxy, the name of one human and the courage of an entire species was beginning to spread. Stories would be told in every corner of survival, bravery, and the human spirit that refused to break, even in the face of death and impossible odds. Ethan took a deep breath, feeling the wind, the hum of energy from the city, and the pulse of life around him. He had survived death, proven his worth, and changed history. Humanity had survived with him, and now the stars themselves would bear witness to what humans could endure, adapt to, and achieve. No enemy, no matter how ancient or powerful, could underestimate humanity again. And for the first time, Ethan felt truly at peace, knowing that survival was only the beginning, and that humanity's story had only just begun among the stars.